Hey guys, so welcome back to Hooked on the Bookworm. So I know it's been a minute, but hopefully I can situate my life a little bit and then I can continue doing this. So today we're going to be talking about My Bloody Life, written by Raimundo Sanchez. So the beginning of this book, just the above little piece, it's from Publisher Weekly. This basically just gives you the gist of what this whole book is about. It's a slow motion riot of drugs, sex, and gunplay. So this book has a lot to do with gangs, violence, and it has to do in Chicago, and it's based on a true story. So that's what really caught my eye, and a couple of my coworkers and my cousin also told me about this book. So I gave it a shot, and to be honest, I really liked the book. It was super captivating, really interesting. And it just gave me a different point of view and perspective of how other people live their lives. So yeah, so without further ado, this book is it's Raimundo. It's his basically biography, and he came from Puerto Rico and came over here, and then he liked school a lot, and he was a really good student. Well, I'm making origami too. So, we're going to do it with sticky notes. So it's a little different, So yeah, he was a really good student. He, kind of like how we grew up in high school, elementary school, just trying to be accepted and, just doing that, trying to meet people. But the thing about him is that he had a really abusive family situation. So when when I'm saying that is you're mentally, physically abused, and then your mom doesn't even care. It was like that. He was constantly abused by the men in her life and by just family members, and then later on it would be the streets. So as he continued to grow with this toxic family situation, he ended up finding making his own family. You kind of get that with friends and stuff like that too, you can make your own family. So that's kind of how it was, but later on it ended up being into I guess a stronger connection, but it wasn't a gang. He ended up joining the Latin Kings later on in the book. But yeah, when this happened, it wasn't even right off the bat. He was around, I guess, gang activity and stuff like that, but he never joined a gang himself until he joined the Latin Kings. But it was basically he had no choice. So he ended up going back to Puerto Rico, and then he came back because I guess his mom also saw that he was really depressed. He was very unhappy. He loved Chicago. He also liked the Cubs, so that's why I'm representing, So yeah, basically, he just came back and he was just with his friends and kind of just grew part of that. And then eventually school wasn't even just about education, and ended up just trying to be cool and popular and stuff like that, just trying to fit in. So eventually, when he was coming back and stuff, he didn't have a house, because his mom didn't provide that stuff. And I guess his stepdad, he was gonna go with his brother, and then eventually that kind of worked out, but not really, because he had a roof over his head, but he wasn't on top of him to go to school and all that type of thing. So he ended up getting into more trouble because obviously the people that he was hanging around with, and then him himself. So it just wasn't a good situation, especially when he's so young. He was probably in his early teens, 14, 15, and these are your role models in life, and they're definitely not role models. They're people that you do not want to be. So yeah, so he ends up growing up and with this type of environment, and he ends up meeting this one older woman. Older woman ended up taking Raimundo's innocence and stuff in a way. She was older, she definitely should have known better. She was a mother, and yeah, she ended up kind of just taking his virginity and stuff like that. And later on, his friends, they found out, they put two and two together and stuff, and they kind of called him out as a man. And I mean, she taught him stuff and he was happy about it, but a grown adult should not do that. It's just mind-blowing. If it would have been the other way around, there would have been havoc, but that's just the world we live in. While he was hanging out with all these gang members and stuff like that too, he would have to prove himself that he was not a coward and stuff, that he was down to do what they were down to do. And then when it came down to it, he couldn't pull the trigger. this was the first time, and like he was called out, and then like he had Morena try to like help him out in that situation, and she ended up finishing off the deed. But ever since that day, like he changed everything about him changed. He's like, I'm not gonna be this coward anymore. So like that's when he ends up being like a real like true gangster. He ends up just not giving a fuck. So when this happened, yeah, like a lot of people started noticing that, oh, this guy really doesn't care, blah blah blah, like he'll take you out. And he ended up getting the nickname Little Loco. So that just gives you like a little like insight of like how ruthless he ended up being. And with that title, I mean, everyone that was like in like rival gangs and stuff, you had a target like on your back. So later on, and like after he's like more like involved with the gangs and stuff, he starts to realize how much death is involved with it, and then how it affects the community too, because innocent bystanders start getting affected. And he talks about it a lot in the book, especially when it comes to I guess when it came to his personal relationships with other people. For example, there was a kid that he kind of looked up to him and his life, and kind of like how ruthless he was, and he wanted to be like him. But he would like, Raimundo wouldn't really like show off and be like, oh yeah, like this is what I really do, like you should really join, like all that type of thing. Like he kind of wanted him to go on the straight and narrow, and that's kind of what his parents wanted for him too. But there was a time that he ended up walking, and he started like kind of like showing like gang affiliated like signs and stuff like that. So eventually he popped up, and then his friend got shot, and because of this, the shot ended up being fatal. And the parents kind of already knew that it was because of gang related activities with Raimundo, and Raimundo told like the parents that he was like gonna go get revenge, but that's not what the parents wanted. Like they didn't want any more gang violence. So it just shows like how much like it impacts like other people. It's not just the people in the gangs, but like your whole community, like innocent family members and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I really took from this book, and it talked about like how things could change. Like just because you grew up in that way doesn't mean you have to be like that. And just honestly all the impact that it leaves from to other people that had nothing to do with the gang. So later on, when there end up being like different like I guess leaders in the group, that's when like the whole like dynamic of the gang and him not wanting to be involved anymore kind of changed, just because like the gang life wasn't the same as how it used to. It used to be like all party and respect, and you know, like all that type of thing. Like, well, how it used to be, like it was like back in the day there was more boundaries and all that type of stuff, and now it was kind of being more lax, and he didn't like that. He liked the more hardcore stuff. So that's basically like how he started like getting out. And throughout this process, he still was going through like homelessness and stuff, because he would go through like house to house and like different friends and stuff. So there's a point that he was like homeless and literally had nowhere else to go. So in the book, like it has a lot of like his struggles and stuff in life, and it's just like mind-blowing how someone could go through all that and still come out straight. Like you are not limited, like your options are open. It doesn't matter who you are. So he ended up leaving the gang, and when he did, you get violations and stuff like that. So it was his third violation, and he left the gang. And at the end of like the whole book, there was just like another tragedy, and my eyes were watery. I don't even remember if I cried. I might have, like I don't doubt it. But yeah, overall this whole book was just mind-blowing, and I am really happy I read it, and I hope you guys read it too. Anyways, this is what I made. So what's really cool about this is that it does this. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and you stay tuned. If you haven't watched the other videos, you should watch those. So yeah, hopefully I'll stay with it.